Okay.
All right, the Oregon City Library Board will come to order at 5:32 p.m. In attendance are Ken Hall, Larry Osborne, Cynthia Andrews, David Goldberg, Nick Nierkman, Scott Edwards, and library staff Greg Williams and Denise Butcher. Our first item is approval of the minutes from last month, which you should have received by email last week. Were there any additions or corrections? And if not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the library director's report.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Edwards. First of all, I just sent an email. I want to sincerely apologize to the board. I noticed when I was preparing for this meeting that I had not included the actual PDF of the director's report in the packet.
Not a problem.
I would like to blame the fact that we're using a new system, but really it's probably the fact that Denise was on vacation and, you know, wasn't there to keep me on track as well. Not that I'm blaming Denise, you know. I don't
Right. I see how that's going,
so,
Greg.
I printed your email out here, so I didn't even realize it was missing, considering how much information there was to go through. So,
so I just emailed it to everybody, and with the board's indulgence, I'm going to share my screen and go through just the highlights very quickly. There's information you can read in there, but there were a couple of things I did want to point out. And Denise, I don't know if you can. Can you give me the power to share my screen?
I can. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let me get that. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So you'll see in there's just a nice letter we received from the Rose City Romance writers about a presentation that Youth Services librarian Barrett Miller had presented, so I wanted to share that. The main things I wanted to update the board on in the director's report first is that the photo is not generating. Hold on, let me reopen this. I am sorry. We did get our new book drop on 6th Street, so we have expanded the 6th Street book drop. There are now 4 units, 4 bins there. They are open, there we go. They are open 24/7. There we go, there's the picture. And we are very, very glad to have them out there and accepting returns. So they have been very helpful. We got through the 3-day weekend without having to come in on a Sunday or a Monday to empty those bins, which was fantastic. So I wanted to update the board there. I wanted to update the board. There is a new painting in the library, which is in the director's report I sent you. This is a painting that used to hang in the old courtroom. And when the court is moving to the new justice facility, they don't have room for it anywhere where it's publicly viewable. And so rather than have them stick it in the hallway, you know, in a staff space in the new justice facility, we decided we would like to have it in the library. It's a good fit for the space. It shows pioneers and Native Americans together on the river. So it's a nice painting, and we're glad to be able to preserve that for public view when the library is able to reopen.
So they had no space but people. We have space but no people.
Yeah, exactly.
Exact. It was a match made in heaven. So.
Is that by Leland John, Greg?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is by Leland John. Good eye. So yes.
Well, I taught with him for quite a while
at
at college, so you know. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, and we're thrilled to have it in the library. It fits so well in the space and in the Carnegie. So we're very pleased. We'll be talking about the results of the latest round of Realm study. I put that in your packet. We will go through the statistics fairly quickly. I will point out a few things in the statistics. I have redone the way that they're generated. It saves me a lot of time on the back end putting these stats together, which is good. There are a couple of statistics reporting things I'm doing a little differently, and I just wanted to point those out, but we'll do that in just a second. I wanted to highlight a couple of new services that we are offering. Our summer reading programs, Take and Make craft kits, were very, very popular. So we have expanded that. Those are going to be a monthly offering for 4 specific audiences: teens, kids, adults, and our BAM group, our Because Accessibility Matters group. They will each have kits that they can request, and we will either mail them out to folks or have them available with their holds pickup as long as we're doing that. I believe staff told me in the first 10 hours that we had this month available, most of them were claimed. So great response. Got some really good feedback on those. And we are next month for the kids and teens, we are doubling the amount of kits that we are sending out. So we've increased. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we went from 30 to 60. Is that correct?
Which is, yeah, a lot.
We have some new readers advisory services. So basically book recommendations. We're trying to make it easier while we're closed for people to contact us and get some suggestions for reading material. We are also working to develop some resource lists. We know that this year is going to be an extremely challenging school year for parents, educators, and students. And so we're doing what we can to provide resources and resource lists. We've been working with the school district librarian to make sure that he has information that he can pass on to his teachers. And we are working with some parent groups as well, some community groups, to make sure that we can get information out to people who are looking for other alternatives or augmentations for the upcoming school year. A lot of the feedback we've heard is that the things that are missing are things like art programs and opportunities for community, for getting together and communication. So we're going to be looking at things that we can do, augmenting those opportunities the kids are missing this year. So, and finally, I wanted to update the group. Last month, I had let you know that all linked libraries had agreed to waive overdue fines and extend checkout periods to 28 days through Labor Day. Those have both been extended until the end of the calendar year, so December 31st. Quite honestly, we are all taking kind of we pretty much anticipate doing this until we no longer, until we're back at full strength, but we just, in order to give people deadlines, we're kind of doing a rolling 3-month time period on all of those things. So, and then finally, we made a change. Most card holders can now place 40 holds for items on their account. It was 15. It's now 40, and that makes it easier for folks to put more holds on items, especially when libraries are closed. And so they can pick up more items and keep them for longer. So that change is expected to be permanent.
I like that. I bumped up against the 15 quite a bit, so I'm glad to hear that. One other thing I'd throw out real quick that I noticed is that with everything going on, I often have a lot of holds show up at one time, and I haven't always been able to finish all of the books that I've gotten, but I turn them back in. But then with that time period for safety, where they're held, I can't put another hold on them because it shows that I still have them checked out. Is that something that can be?
So I will talk to our circulation folks about that. The 40 limit should help with that a bit, because you'll have a higher cap on that. When we talk about materials handling, I've got some good news that we will be able to start processing those incoming holds more quickly than we have in the past, which is great. That should hopefully alleviate some of that. I will talk with the rest of the group and see if there's anything we can do. I think there might be some system limitations. I don't know that the system can differentiate between a hold that you have that's in transit and a hold that is still waiting to be filled. And I think it all counts towards that 40 limit. But I will do a little research and report back to you next month.
Thank you.
but thank you for the feedback. That's really useful
Question,
to have.
Greg, are materials coming
Yep.
back in a fairly timely manner despite the extended, time? What's the materials flow like when there's no actual tight deadline anymore?
Well, I can honestly say that we're getting just as many materials as we want back in the building.
Okay.
There's a lot coming back in. Looking at the statistics I've looked at, like for example, I looked just this morning at the items that were due July 31st, which was that big group of items that we had out, and we originally had about 22,000 out, and now we're down to, I believe it's about 2,000, somewhere between 18 and 2,100. So that's more than we might like to see in a normal circumstance, but it's not concerning to me.
Great.
At the
That's
end of
great
the
to
day,
hear.
if people have a book in their hands and they're getting enjoyment out of it and they're reading it, that's great. That's especially
Great.
in this environment, that's what we want. So
Good. Thank you.
you're welcome. And then finally, in your packet, I just gave a couple of examples of some really positive feedback that we've received from patrons via social media, positive feedback both about our holds pickup and how much they appreciate and enjoy it, and also the virtual services that we're able to provide. And so they're just some nice comments there. I wanted to share those with the board so you could see those. And that will conclude my director's report presentation. Any questions on any of that? Any additional questions? No? Okay. Let me stop sharing. And once again, I sincerely apologize for not including that PDF in the packet that was sent out. I will not do that again.
No problem.
Okay. All right. I gave you the last 5 months worth of statistics because we were a little behind on there, and I want to be cognizant of time and that everybody's got other things to worry about. So with at your pleasure, I was just going to point out a couple of differences in the new data that I'm compiling and just kind of take your temperature on it. And then if there are any other questions about individual stats, I'll be happy to answer those. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I'm just going to focus on the August ones since those are the most recent ones. Most of the data that you'll see there is similar or the same as what has been reported previously. Like I said, in the back end, this is now much easier for me to generate. It basically was an entirely manual process before, and I've been able to automate some of it. We've got the patron registrations, the circulation information. We've got there's a term there. It's called first-time circulation. I don't believe that has been broken out before. First-time circulation is what it sounds like. It's the first time somebody checks out an item at the library. When we report our circulation stats to the states, and generally when we report circulation stats, those stats also include renewals. So if somebody checks something out and renews it 4 times, we will count 5 circulations. But that kind of first-time circulation number is a good number to look at to see how many people coming in the library and picking up a new material or getting a new material via holds pickup. So I've called that out. On the holds received and sent to other libraries, rather than showing you the numerical difference between those levels, I have put a ratio in there because when we look at that, we're always kind of aiming for a 50-50. So that we're sending out as much as we're getting in. And to me, that just makes a lot more sense, gives you a little more context of what those numbers mean rather than showing you the actual mathematical difference between those numbers. So you can see that in August, yay, we got right around 50-50, which,
yeah, that looked good.
Which is great. I have given the circulation demographics that you were previously used to seeing. Previously, you would get some stats on kind of the average number of checkouts per, a city resident, and as compared to an unincorporated resident. I'd be happy to put that stat back if that's something that the board likes seeing. But to me, the importance of that statistic is to see how closely that breakdown reflects the population breakdown of our service area. And so that's what I've tried to show here, is that every month we can see here's the number of borrowers we have, differentiated between city residents and unincorporated residents. How closely does that track with the breakdown of our service area? I can tell you from a library point of view, we're not really concerned, if city residents check out 0.6 more items on average than an unincorporated resident. As long as we're providing service that's roughly commensurate with our service area population, that's what we're interested in. So that's the statistic I'm showing there. If you'd like me to change it or anything like that, I'm happy to do so.
Like it.
Greg.
Okay.
Greg.
Yes.
How was that? I was trying to think how it was done before, and I don't have it in front of me right now. I had looked at it earlier, but I think I understand what you're trying to do. But is there a number there that tells that the percentage of in city versus I can't even figure out how to ask the question specifically, but
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, is it a ratio of how many people in the city check out books versus how many in the unincorporated area based on the
Yes. So what's on there now shows you the service area population. So
Okay.
with the most recent numbers that we have, so it's approximately 58% city
Okay.
and 43% unincorporated. And then it shows the monthly checkouts by those same breakdowns. And so you can compare the percentage. So you can say, okay, our service area population has 58% city residents. Our search for that month, we had about 55% city residents. So that tracks pretty closely.
Yeah,
That's good.
great. Okay, thank you.
What you were seeing,
Yeah,
what you were seeing
that's-
beforehand was you get that.
Yeah.
That works. Okay.
Yeah, that works. That's good.
Okay. All right. We've got the social media statistics there. So I've got the basics there, and I've also started including our monthly social media report in there from the platform that we implemented called Hootsuite. At a future meeting, if we want to dive into that, we certainly can. There's a lot of data in there, and some of it's really good, and some of it's not the most useful data. So we can customize that report. But I thought it was for those who want to dig into it, that's a really good source, to kind of get some more information about how our social media is reaching out to the community. And if you just want kind of the broad, the 30,000 foot view, we've got follower numbers there. So
Is there, Greg, is there like 10 numbers that would really be, that's like information overload for me to go through.
Yeah.
But I wondered if there's some significant data in there that would really give us like some sort of measure of what's happening. As opposed to, for me, it was just a lot of information.
Okay.
Absolutely. Does that make sense?
We can, yes, that makes total sense. We have, right now we've got the ones that we put together, we've got that report, which is kind of the kitchen sink. And we've got a very scaled back one, which rather than 10 data points might have 4 data points, which I didn't think was quite told the whole story. So give us another month to kind of blend the two and see if we can come to a happy medium.
Great, thank you.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Dave. Financial, you'll notice I took off we had given financial information such as, the number of copies that we sold and the number of flash drives and the like. And to be quite honest, that's extra work to pull those stats. And when you look at all of that as a portion of library revenue, it's minuscule. And so I thought it would be more useful for the library board to get just kind of an overview budget to actual report. So I've included a sample that's pulled from the city's financial system, which kind of shows our broad categories of expenditures and revenue, and just kind of shows you, here's what we budgeted at the beginning of the biennium. Every month, here's where we are on those categories. If there's something that's causing me concern, I can share that with you. If you've got questions about a particular category, I'm happy to answer them. I think that might be more useful than looking at, kind of individual statistics about individual things that we're selling. Operationally, we're kind of interested in how much copy or revenue we get, but for the library board, I would think having that bigger picture is a lot more important and a lot more what you're interested in. So if that sounds all right, I do plan to continue including that report as kind of the financial overview and entertaining any questions.
Are you looking for feedback? Are you looking for feedback?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
No, I like it a lot. I like it a lot.
Feedback.
I like it a lot. I think it's really it's going to give us a lot better view of what's happening. I mean, that's really I mean, it's a summary of the financial operations of your area, and I think it's really good. I mean, I appreciate having it.
I think it's great.
I mean, the other thing is with LDAC, we're supposed to be, doing oversight on this, and if we did that every month, I would really feel confident that we could stand behind it.
Yep. No, absolutely. I strongly feel that advisory bodies should have a good understanding of the finances. It's also very helpful in budget time. When we go and start presenting a budget, everybody's kind of on the same page, and we can articulate, the challenges we have or the things we're concerned about, and speak to that in the budgetary capacity. So good. So I'll continue doing that. I do want to thank Denise for her work in getting that report set up, working with our finance department to get that set up and to get that done. So thank you very much, Denise.
Awesome.
Programming, we've got kind of the same programming statistics. August, I wasn't able to get to them just because it came so close to the beginning of the month when I had to get this packet put together. I'll get you the August numbers yesterday. You've got some numbers going back a couple of months. Currently, any programming numbers you see on there are for our virtual programs. And to be honest, we're still kind of dialing in on exactly how we want to count those things. So there's a difference between counting, how many people you get showing up to a virtual timed program, that goes from 7 to 7:30, as opposed to a video that we post and, we count number of views over a course of 2 weeks. So I think there's a little more differentiation we can do on that. I am kind of waiting to see what the state says they want to see for their statistics. I'd rather not, put a whole lot of effort into doing them one way and then have the state say, no, we need you reported a different way. So for the moment, I'm just going to kind of bunch those together. I'll be happy to point out, any anomalies or if you have questions about the numbers, I'm happy to answer those. But I just wanted to point that out. That's how I'm planning to do programming for the next little bit. And then finally, there are two categories there where I put revisions pending. Meeting room use, we're not really, we're not booking the meeting room at this point, so I didn't feel we were missing anything by not including it. When we're at the point of reopening, I would like to put together a stat. The way I'm used to looking at meeting room usage is you take your capacity, you compare it with your capacity. And so you say, for the number of meeting rooms we have, here's the total number of time that it could have been booked. Here's the actual number of time it was booked. That gives you a little more context than just the number of individual appointments and the number of people. So when we're able to report that stat, I do plan to do something a little different like that. And then finally, materials processing. This is the one that, number of materials added, number of materials subtracted. It was always a little wonky to calculate. And I plan to bring back a proposed measure to look at that. When I look at materials, kind of the question that I want to answer is, are we buying the right stuff? So yes, it's interesting to know that we bought 500 books. Were those the right 500 books? I want to compare those with demand and circulation. So for that materials processing, I'm kind of trying to look at a different way of presenting that to show you, here's what's coming in the course of a month. And here's how closely it tracks with what we can determine the demand is out in the community for those materials. So that's what I'm working on. I hope that is more useful than just a static or a periodic count of the number of widgets in and out the door, which is never my favorite stat to present. So.
Right.
So does that all sound okay? Am I on the right track statistics-wise?
Yes.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Was that the library?
Are there
director's
any
report?
questions? Any questions about the stats that
I thought it
were
was
in the packet?
interesting. We really weren't using YouTube back a year ago much, and now we have 550
Yeah.
users
Yep.
or people who are subscribing to our channel. So that was
Yep.
that was good to see, which I kind of expected, obviously, with our new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to figure out. Well, so I was kind of surprised that some of those other stats didn't increase more, given that we're virtual. I thought maybe more people would be looking for information that they might pick up in the library, generally, because we have, all the traffic that we get. So I was kind of surprised that those weren't higher, but I don't know how to, it's not the statistics. It's
Yeah.
just the way that people use the tools that we have.
And there are other statistics we can look at, including, like, for example, just digital usage. None of our databases have ever been included in this. So Canopy usage and our newest one, Creative Bug, that's not in there. Measuring database usage is always a tough thing to do because every vendor, they have vendor standards and most vendors ignore them. So it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison, but that's definitely something I can work on to try to get a more comprehensive picture of online resource usage. But at the moment, this is kind of the
And I saw
easiest and the best data that we have.
I saw that ebooks are increased basically by 50%. And I think they went from 4,000 and some up to 6,000 some. Again, expected, but
Yeah.
we might see that trend continuing and probably will hold, I would think, going forward.
I would definitely think so. And the rest of the link libraries are also talking about putting more money into those collections. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, the other thing that I did include in there, based on a question that we received during the last meeting, I did put together a grid chart in there that shows every library and their current, at least as of last week, their current phone hours, holds pickup hours, and their book drop status. So as you can expect with different libraries, different libraries are doing different things. If you've got feedback or comments on how our service hours compare with those, I'd be more than happy to hear them. Once again, we're always looking for opportunities based on staffing and the resources that we have available to provide services as much as we can while the building is closed. So I can assure you that we're constantly looking at other opportunities to perhaps augment our hours, but I don't have anything to share at this point.
Are any libraries allowing patrons to enter their building?
The only one is Wilsonville, and the only thing that they can enter the building for is to pick up holds. So,
Okay.
I mean, generally to pick up holds. They've
okay.
They're big. They have a very spacious entryway that they've been able to empty and put the holds on the sides and put some self-checks there. And I think they have a couple of staff people helping, but that is the only Link library that is allowing anybody into their facility at this particular point.
Good. All right, thanks.
I see you've increased hours, it looks like, on excuse me, Monday and Thursday for pickups.
Yes.
Is there?
Yes.
That's great. I think I mentioned this last week or last month, was there was no weekend pickup, which I know for people that come in from the unincorporated areas or things might have a day off, and that would be the day they could make it. But I'm glad to see there's 2 days that extend to at least 7 for pickups. That gives people some options there.
And we are looking at, and I will share with you, the biggest constraint that we're facing right now in expanding hours is we have our circulation staff just to be absolutely safe and to make sure that we can ensure continuity of service. We have them working on an A/B shift. So we've got half of our team on 1 week, then off the next week, on 1 week, off the next week. And to be frank, that does limit our ability. It makes it much harder to move people around in the schedule and to add more hours, but we're constantly looking at options for doing that. So yes, the weekend comment, I heard it loud and clear last week. We've heard it from a few patrons, but not
really many.
Not as much as we expect. Yeah. So I think that the evening hours have helped quite a bit. with a number of our patrons, but yeah, that's something we're definitely looking at.
That's the end of the director's report.
That is, yep.
So I guess, according to the new agenda, public comments are now, and I wasn't informed. I don't think we have any.
No.
So we'll move on then to the
Nope.
realm results and library materials handling updates.
Okay. So I'll try to be brief. So as we've been talking about over the past few months, there is a federally funded study sponsored by the Institute of Museum and Library Services called the Realm Project. They are doing successive rounds of testing of library materials to see how long the SARS, the virus that causes COVID-19 persists on materials. Based on the first 3 rounds of testing, we had successively increased our quarantine period. So we started at 3 days, then we went to 4 days, then we went to, the recommendation was 5. This was about 3 weeks ago. I think that was round number 3. Round number 3 showed that 5 days was necessary for the materials tested. At that point, since we knew in the library that round 4 was coming and was likely going to extend that, we just started doing a 6-day quarantine, processing on the 7th day. That helped us already, build in that extra day, which we thought we were going to need, and also just operationally made it a lot easier to keep track of what needs to be processed. So things that are coming in on a Monday, they get processed the next Monday. Staff feedback was, when you had to track each individual day, it was a little tough. So. The other thing that we have been doing, as we discussed last time, was the incoming materials from other libraries. We were quarantining those as well. And that was because, I'll be frank, there was no consistency amongst other libraries. And so there were some libraries who were not following these guidelines as they evolved. And we felt it was really important that we could assure the community that any material or any item that they checked out from the Oregon City Library, we had done our absolute best to make sure that they were getting something that had sat and been quarantined for the amount of time that the data shows us that we should do. So last week, kind of the day I was planning to get the agenda out, round 4 of the Realm study came out. Whereas previous studies had tested items just flat and in isolation, this study tested them stacked together in a shelving configuration, or as they might be in a cart or in a book bin or a crate. And those results showed that stacking really slows down the time that it takes for the virus to die off, which is kind of what we expected. Some of the results were very surprising. I think like on a DVD, it went from 1 day to 6 days. I included a little graphic in your packet for you. So luckily we were already quarantining materials for 6 days. We are currently planning to keep doing that. Since Friday, the county has also gotten advice from their risk management folks and Dr. Sarah Present, who is the public health director at Clackamas County. And she's fully supporting the 6-day quarantine. She has basically, I will characterize it as agreed with our Oregon City interpretation, that when you have scientific data that has been specifically prepared for your industry, you really do need to follow it and make sure that you are doing everything as safely as possible. So based on the feedback from those 2 departments, the county is now requiring every Link library to observe a 6-day quarantine to certify that they are following basic materials handling guidelines, which include making sure that people are wearing masks while they're handling materials. And with those 2 assurances, now that we know that every single library is treating their materials the same way that we're treating their materials, when we get those materials from other libraries, now we can start processing them. We don't need to hold them for another few days as we have been doing them. So for us, it was great that we finally, that others started to follow the same protocols that we're following. And what it does for us is, I think it's one of those situations. It's going to slow everything down for all the other libraries. For us, it's going to make things a lot easier. That just came out Friday, last Friday the 4th. That requirement from the county. That is also similar to what all Washington County libraries are doing. They are doing the exact same thing. Their county centralized service providers requiring that all libraries quarantine for a certain number of days and cannot induct materials into the courier system before that quarantine has been observed. So that is the update on Realm. The comments, I have received comments from some members of the public and just questions. I thought I heard the CDC say that contact transmission was not the most common way of doing it. And our answer has always been, while that may be the case, or we don't have scientific data at this point that shows that that's the case. We do have scientific data from a industry-specific research project that is telling us how we should handle materials. And again, from a public safety and a liability perspective, that's really what we have to do. If a study comes out tomorrow that says, yep, even though there's virus on your materials, there's really no risk in distributing them, we would be happy to stop quarantining things. But until such guidance comes out, we are going to continue quarantining as per the guidelines that we're getting from the feds, and also those are the same guidelines the State Library of Oregon has said that libraries should be following in this pandemic environment. So that's the Realm update. Are there any questions or comments or concerns?
One question about just in general about the staff. Have any staff members come down with COVID?
I have to be cognizant of HIPAA, of HIPAA requirements. What I can say, and I hate to jinx it, we have had 5 instances where Denise and I lost a whole lot of sleep, and thankfully, none of those instances were warranted that we lost that sleep. So we keep saying we're 5-0. We're 5-0 with staff members who had exhibited 1 or more symptoms associated with COVID. And thus far, we have been very fortunate that none of those have turned positive. So we want to keep that streak alive. We're putting a lot of effort into keeping that going.
There been a study on anything other than COVID that could be transmitted via library books? I'm just curious. I don't want to cause a panic or anything, but.
Have a category, library transmitted diseases,
I am unfamiliar. I'm unaware of any such study. I can do a little bit of a literature review. Actually, in the literature review that they did for the Realm project, I don't remember seeing anything in there. I think this is one of those things. It's like, pre-COVID, nobody even thought that this was a thing. I'm sure we all realized anecdotally that, all right, if a kid returns a book and they've slobbered all over it and they've got the flu and somebody picks it up, yeah, there's, it could happen, but, it's the flu, it's not COVID. Right. This has raised the awareness a whole bunch. And we'll get into the next section when we talk about phase reopening. Those are considerations we think about when we think about, how do we let people back in the building safely? How do we let them browse materials? If somebody comes in the building and we now have data that shows, they could pull a book off the shelf, they could cough on it, they could put it back on the shelf, and, it's virulent for at least 6 days. And there's no way that we would know about it unless we establish some procedure to do that. So that's kind of a lot of the thought process that we're putting into how do we safely reopen and restore services. So.
All right, what do you want to move on then to the plans that you have for the phased restoration of the libraries?
Yes. So last month there were some questions about that, and I told you that we had a nice big spreadsheet that I put together. This is but 1/4 of the spreadsheet that I've given you. This is the one that focuses on library services. I've also got information about staffing, which I didn't want to share in a public forum because it talks about people's hours and the like. We've got one on various facility changes that we're making that are in process. So you can think of each one of those phases. We're focusing on different reconfigurations of the facility to allow us to provide services, and the one I shared with you, that's kind of our service page. So let me get that up so I can be looking at the same thing that you're looking at. So the way we've gone about, doing our plans for a phased reopening is the two kind of overarching plans that guide how we go forward are the governor's reopening plan and the city's return to work plan. And so I gave you a copy of the city's return to work plan, so you can see that. As with the governor's plan, it's a phased process, whereas the COVID environment gets more under control, we are able to do more, open more facilities, restore more services. So that's kind of the approach that we've taken. We are currently in phase 3 of the city's reopening plan, which generally corresponds with phase 1 of the governor's plan. And you'll see on that list, we've kind of got, sorry, I'm scrolling. I'm slow in my scrolling. There we go. So what we tried to do is we tried to think about kind of the major service areas that we provide service to patrons, and how we might be able to provide those at each stage of a phased reopening. So basically in stage 3, 4, and 5 of the city's plan, which generally corresponds with stage 1, 2, and 3 of the state plan. I put in the top corner, this is the 4th version of this document. It is a living document. As we get new information, as things in the building change, as staffing changes, we are updating this plan, and we are definitely trying to, for lack of a better term, go as quickly as we can while still being safe for both the community and staff. So I'd be happy to go through each one of these if you'd like to talk about it, or perhaps there are individual items that people have questions about why we phased it in such a way, or what the considerations are as we look at those services. So I want to be respectful of time, but I also want to make sure you have the information that you need.
I don't have a specific question about that. It was very nice of you to get this to us, and very interesting to look it over. And I appreciate you getting that to us.
Okay.
It seems very reasonable to me.
Okay.
No,
Well, that's good to hear.
very well thought out.
Good to hear from our advisory body.
Well, the nice thing about having in the phased reopening is that if it'll give you a good trial run at it, I guess you might say, and if there is a surge, as the experts say that there's likely to be, late fall and winter, then you can just go back to your plan. So the plan is not, I think it has utility for opening and, no contact services. So I thought it was, a pretty good plan in that regard, and that it didn't lock you into anything, and you can use it to restructure it as needed.
I agree. I thought that was well done.
That makes sense.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. That is one thing we've been, yes, we do need to build in the ability to go backwards, because like you, I fully expect in fall and winter, we may very well have to take a step backwards. And we did not want to, willy-nilly or prematurely, implement a service that we would not be able to maintain, if circumstances change dramatically. So this way it's exactly right. We know that as long as we're kind of in this environment, these are the services that we can safely do. As we're able to move forward, we can do so. And then if we have to move back, we kind of have a baseline of, this is what we know we can do. We know how to do it, and we can do it safely. So
I thought it was flexible and justifiable. If somebody should say, well, why aren't you doing this now that it's like January and everything's closed again? Well, this is our plan. And, I thought that was, it was a good covering your bases type thing too.
Well, good. It's I'm glad to hear it. We don't go into this level of detail with everybody who calls or has a question, but as the library board, as our advisory board and representatives of the community, we want to share this information with you, and it's good to hear that we seem to be on the right track. This has been a very challenging situation, so it's very good to hear that we've done okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from this for me is that once we kind of get into the next phase, once we're solidly in there, we do have our next steps. The biggest one we're looking forward to is public computer usage. And so that would be kind of the next one that we'd be going for. I think we know how we want it to work. There are a couple of technological issues that we still have to get in place, but they're not insurmountable. And the nice thing about that is that once we get that working the way we want, it's actually going to improve our ability to provide service when we're back to full strength. We're going to be setting up a way that we could have any staff member in the building offer computer or PC support to somebody using a public PC, even if the staff member isn't at the reference desk or isn't right next to a computer. So, that's me looking for the silver linings in some of these things. So, we can implement some procedures and some tools that are really going to help us provide even better service when we're back at full strength. So.
I do have one quick question that occurred to me that it seems like an obvious question,
Sure.
but it just came to me in regards to the Realm study. Is there actually any documented case of someone getting COVID from a library material, and is there any outbreak of COVID that's been connected to a library in any way or among library staff that were still working during this outbreak?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware. The Realm study is not in their literature review. They didn't find anything that I recall. They're going to do another literature review. So no, I am unaware. We kind of pay attention to the local area, Fort Vancouver, Washington County, Multnomah County, and Clackamas County. HIPAA regulations are always something, even when we're talking with sister systems about, it's hard for them to talk about medical conditions of staff members. I've heard talk of some library staff in other systems who have come down with COVID. Probably not related to providing library service because most libraries have been closed, since March. But we do look at we do look very carefully at other things like schools in some of the places that have opened schools early and done it in person and kind of seen what their experience has been, letting people back in with tools that they think were the right tools to have in place. It makes us even more determined to do this right and to do this safely, because there have been, we've seen some articles about some other environments where, it's a little hard to control. So, but no, to answer your question, I'm unaware of any specific library, any documented case where the library has been the vector of transmission.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions?
Boy.
Greg, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we move on to briefly to communications? Okay,
Nope.
excellent.
That is.
All right, Nick, good to see you. It's been quite a while, by the way. I'd add that.
Thank you.
You have an update from LDAC for us.
I haven't heard anything from LDAC. I don't know, Greg, are you aware of anything?
The only thing I'm aware of is having a confirmation that it is on hiatus with no immediate plans to resume either regular LDAC meetings or the task force meetings. So still up in the air.
I haven't seen anything that would even say that we're going to get underway again. So, yep, that's the report.
Okay, Cynthia, you have an update on the Library Foundation?
Yes, we met August 20th, and our focus was on the Dolly Parton Imagination Library project. We are asking ourselves the question, what is the role that the foundation should be playing or could be playing either in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library? It was not our intent to run and manage the whole thing, until death do us part. And so we're asking, well, how will this project get managed, and what parts of it should the foundation keep and manage, and which parts might be taken up by someone in one of our partnership organizations. And we've been approached by the Oregon City Schools Foundation to form some kind of partnership around Dolly Parton. And that looks very positive for us. They made a donation to us, and the Oregon City Schools Foundation is providing book bag type things for newborns in the Willamette Falls Hospital. Well, they were until COVID. And the foundation has asked us, the Library Foundation, if we'd like to partner in that project by having some information in the book bags and a logo on the book bags to help advertise the Dolly Parton project. And we have agreed to do that, and we've agreed on a logo. And so when they're able to distribute those bags again, Dolly Parton and the Library Foundation will be nicely represented there. So it may be that the volunteers on the Oregon City Schools Foundation might be good partners to take off some parts of the Dolly Parton project. We're thinking that both kind of ethically and maybe legally, that the Library Foundation needs to keep the fiscal part, and that maybe some of the more operational details, the registrations and that sort of thing, could be auctioned off, to some of our potential partners. There's quite a bit of bookkeeping in terms of the registration. Even though it's automated, there's a lot of details to manage, and it's a little overwhelming for the person who's been doing that job since we initiated the project, and she's become an expert in it, and she would be a good person to teach someone else to assist her. So we're going to be looking into how that might work out. No firm decisions were made at the meeting. We need to have further discussions with the Oregon City Schools Foundation, but it looks like our general thrust is going to be to delegate some of the responsibilities to other volunteers. And Greg gave a really, really nice report, much the same as the report that he'd given to the library board. And we really appreciated that. And it was extensive, but very interesting to those people that are not already on the library board. So we'll be meeting again this month, and we'll be talking about what steps to take next about the Dolly Parton project. We need to talk about board membership because we need a few more people to do some additional work. And we're looking at perhaps using some of our funds to hire some kind of part-time administrative assistant to manage some of the many, many details around the project, the fundraising, the post office, and other kinds of activities. So our chairperson, Karen, is working on that right now. So it was a good meeting, and we got a lot accomplished, even though not a lot of decisions were made, because it had been such a long time till we got together. But I'm looking forward to the next meeting where we'll have a fuller discussion about the board role in the Dolly Parton project and what are the possibilities, as Karen and others have talked to our potential partners.
All right, thank you, Cynthia.
How many participants are there in the program right now?
I don't know if I know that. We're pretty close to our goal. I don't have that right now, but Nick, I could send that to you if you're interested.
Hey, I'm just curious how that's going,
Yeah.
but it's not, not critical.
Right. I should know that, and I probably have that piece of paper somewhere, but I don't have it in front of me right at this moment. But we're in the several hundreds.
Okay.
Okay. So, and we're despite
I've got
it
it
all.
in an email.
Pardon, Greg?
I've gotten in an email that just came through a couple days ago, and of course it's lost in my inbox. So
okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit like that myself. The online registration for the project has been very successful.
Great.
And so, and we're pretty close to target. So I think we're doing well, but I can provide more detail about that next time with exact numbers of how many kids are registered.
Yeah, you can just wait till next month. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Ken, do you have an update for the Friends of the Library?
I think we lost Ken.
Did we lose him? Okay, I don't see.
Yeah.
I don't see him up there.
Oh.
Okay, we'll move on, but again, as always, thank you, Nick and Cynthia, for being our liaison with these other organizations.
Sure.
All right, communications. Is there any future agenda items?
Just one question. I don't know if this would be
Yep.
new business. Is there any way that the library can have a ballot box? I know there's one at the city hall that's not that far away, but I don't think is there one at the library?
No, there's not. So we never had one before because part of the rules for it is that you had to have somewhere that you could lock it up at night so it would be safe. And when we just had the Carnegie, we did not have anywhere we could do that at. I know there's a lot of rules and regulations behind having it, so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just want to encourage
And-
voting. And since so many people are coming to drop materials off, it just might be a very convenient place.
Think, don't quote me on this, but I seem to recall, I know that some libraries have those new drop boxes that were provided by the Clackamas County Elections Office.
Mhm.
I believe that elections were the ones who determined where those would go. And so if I recall correctly, they looked at every city, and so they probably looked at Oregon City and made the determination that for some reason the library wasn't a good location. I can try to pull up see if I can get some historical information about that.
I mean, every year at election time, we have plenty of people come in and try and hand them in. And we always get to say, no, you have to go over to City Hall, but.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or any unfinished or new business?
I wanted to make just one quick update. I am going to the Historic Review Board later this month to get their blessing on the Carl Clapp Memorial sign outside the library. So I just wanted to. That project is still in progress. I just wanted to let everybody know that we had not forgotten about that. So.
Cool. All right. On that note, everyone, it was good to see you. Please stay safe, especially David and Cynthia.
Yeah.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Stay
Bye.
safe.
They will.
So I think you're still presenter, Greg.
All right. So
Still.
there.